and I think with how AI has been developing, how it is existing, at that time, we saw AI as being applied to specific use cases because the generalization of it was not possible. Like you had to do very specific models that you had to train for very specific use cases. But what is different now is that we have actually, generally applied AI. Right. I'm gonna be a little bit careful of using artificial general intelligence just yet.
But yeah, in the sense that if you wanted to deal with PDFs, right, you'd use for AWS, which we'll get into, you'd have TextRact, which is very much for PDFs. But now you just throw it into ChatGPT or whatever your LLM of choice.
Yeah, if context windows get infinitely big, if processing speeds get infinitely higher, you can just use one API for everything.
Well, okay, so what was I'll call it this aha moment with AI, particularly with LLMs? I think that was a pretty big jump. Like, what was it for you when you first used an LLM where it's like, okay, this is cool, I want to build here?
Yeah, I think one of the core pieces of it was obviously with how ChatGPT came about, Anthropic came about, and we were working at AWS at the time, or I was working at AWS at the time, and we got a lot of early access to new technology. And this is like one of those great things that you get to have in a big company, is that you get early access to a lot of cutting edge things. So you can start learning about it, how to apply it and whatnot. And I was at that time trying to figure out, okay, how could it solve like documentation issues in our product at the time? I was working at AWS Amplify. How could we use it to generate individual configurations for our AWS service that makes it easier to apply, just like using natural language, and then you create a CDK construct of a particular use case and it just deploys and it just works, right? And after I iterated a little bit with it back and forth, and even though the product was really bad at the time, like the state of the models at the time were quite bad, you could see that if it just kept improving at this rate, it is already going to be impressive, and it's already going to unlock entirely new segment of economic opportunity. And you can either choose to bet that it's going to get worse, or you can choose to bet that it's going to get better. And it is quite obvious in my mind that we will throw more compute at this problem, and we will get better at it. And if you draw a line, every 6 months, the models get 50% cheaper. At the same time, they get more intelligent. So if you can place your bet on AI in a way that just relies on the models getting better, you're naturally going to get to the product you want to build.
I like that thinking a lot. And it's something special about tech people when they see something and say, okay, imagine if this was 10,000 times faster or 10,000 times cheaper, and being able to think, and that's like a reasonable way of thinking. Yeah. Right? It's hard to do that in the physical world, right? Say, oh, imagine if cars cost $5. What could I do then? They never will.
Yeah. It is. It's a very, very hard problem. But I think with, especially people with like computer science background who's been here for a long time, have personally experienced it just so many times that things naturally get a million times better, right? My first Android phone was really, really bad, but now Android phones are great, right?
It used to be you count on the fact that you have to wipe it and do everything every 2 or 3 months or lock up.
Yeah. Do you remember when you had to defrag your hard drives?
Oh yeah, I can picture the animation. It was it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in years. Part of what you were looking at AI for was literally not having to write CDK by hand.
I think it's also to answer a lot of the implicit questions that we sometimes, don't ask or don't answer, right? Like we're trying to figure out if I'm going to just deploy my website on AWS, there's probably, I feel like I'm going to enter meme territory here, but there's like probably 13 ways of deploying a website on AWS. There's certainly 13 ways of deploying containers on AWS. So like everything comes with its trade-offs, right? Everything comes with its own decisions, and the reasons why there are so many different ways of doing it is because customers have specific requirements. And using AI, we can actually tease out a lot of those requirements. So instead of instead of effectively selling you a solution, we can first understand the problem you're trying to solve. And only when we understand the problem you're trying to solve, we can give you the solution, right? And so I was trying to experiment a lot with that. And then ultimately, yeah, I went through a lot of prototypes at my time at AWS, and I got to start the Cura project there.
Did you like that clip? Check out the full episode, the interview with Renee Brandel, co-founder and CEO of Casco and inventor of Amazon Hero. Check out the description for links, and please subscribe to the channel.